The money is there. Yes, some people are confusing our people, but that confusion will be sorted out. Let's maintain the course. On the issue of homosexuals, ebitingwa ebisiyagi, we shall get time and discuss the matter thoroughly. The homosexuals are deviations from normal. Why? Is it by nature or by nurture? We need to answer those questions. This deviant, is he deviant by nature or by nurture? We need a medical opinion on that. We shall discuss it thoroughly. The Western countries should stop wasting the time of humanity by trying to impose their practices on other peoples. Europeans and other groups marry cousins and near relatives. Here, to marry within the clan is taboo, zero. Should we impose sanctions on them for marrying relatives? So we should put sanctions on people who are marrying their cousins in other parts of the world. This is not our job. If they are marrying their cousins, that's their problem. Sex in Uganda and maybe in other parts of Africa is confidential. Even heterosexuality, even the heterosexuals, they do it confidentially. How do we come to know that you are a homosexual unless you publicize it? We shall discuss all this. With these few words, I thank Parliament for allowing me to come. And say a few words to you. If there are some other issues, convey them confidentially so that I can understand them well. I greet you all and congratulate you on account of going through the following calamities in the last 3 years. Because we have been through so many calamities. The calamities were the following: the locusts. Do you remember the locusts? The landslides, the floating islands, the rising waters of the lake, the corona pandemic, the Bijambias. You remember Bijambias. The problem of the high commodity prices caused by the Russian-Ukrainian war, the Ebola epidemic, the suicide bombers, etc., etc. The NRM assured you that with God's help, we would go through these calamities, and we did. Indeed, our economy, by end of this financial year, will grow by 5.3% to attain the GDP size of $49.3 billion by the exchange rate method and of $142.9 billion by the PPP method. However, I want this economy to grow by a factor of 10 to $500 billion in the next few years. And if you aggressively support my policy measures, we shall achieve it. How? I will tell you in the course of this speech. However, let me first tell you again that I congratulate Ugandans on account of going through the calamities enumerated above. I told you we would, and we did, all inconveniences and losses notwithstanding. It is in such circumstances that our Baganda people and Banyankole say, akutwala ekiro omusiimo obukedde, wakutwala nyekiro omusiimo bwashesha. The one who successfully guides you on a journey in the night, you thank him in the morning. Jesus had harsher words for his disciples. In the book of Mark, chapter 16, verse 14, he rebuked them for panicking in the storm when they were crossing the lake by saying, in quotes, "You people of little faith." He did that because those same disciples had seen the miracles Jesus had performed, and yet they panicked in the storm when Jesus was with them, although asleep in the boat. Although I do not want to compare the NRM with Jesus, there is no doubt that the NRM has, over the last 60 years, solved quite a number of historical problems. It is therefore fallacious for some elements to panic when we face any challenges. There are solutions to those challenges as long as we are patriotic, genuine, and not parasitic. However, before I go into the purpose of today's meeting, through the speaker, I would like us to stand up for a minute of silence to remember the 3,632 people that were killed by corona, the 55 that were killed by Ebola, those that died in the landslides, And recently, 4 students of Kasaka SS in Gomba that were killed by a lorry that lost control, according to what the Prime Minister told me. So, Madam Speaker, if you don't mind, we could stand up to remember these people. I'm sure the Speaker has allowed me.
You are allowed, Your Excellency.
Thank you. State House Controller to send 5 million shillings to each of the families of the 4 students that died in that accident. I'm also directing the State House Controller to give 1 million shillings each to the 14 students that are injured and are in Gombe Hospital. The Prime Minister and the Attorney General should get in touch with the families of the dead children and the injured to ensure that the truck owners compensate the victims and their families according to the law. Because they may not know, they may just know that they may not know that they're entitled to compensation. Our meeting today was a telephone conversation I had with the Right Honourable Speaker over the phone on the issue of the Parish Development Model, PDM. As a consequence of that, I decided to again interact with you, the honourable members, on these issues. To properly contextualize the issue of PDM, I must remind the honourable members of the principles of the national resistance movement, which are patriotism, Pan-Africanism, socio-economic transformation, and democracy. PDM comes directly under principle number 3, socio-economic transformation, although it cannot thrive without the other 3, patriotism, Pan-Africanism, and democracy. I pointed out before in many writings that society is like some of the insect species that go through a biological process known as metamorphosis, which has got a number of stages that start with an egg, caterpillar, pupa, and a mature butterfly, for instance. In the last 4.5 million years of human evolution, ever since man gained the Homo sapiens sapien form, the society he created has been metamorphosing. Karl Marx, by 1848, when he wrote the Communist Manifesto, pointed out that up to that point, society had gone through 5 social systems. These were the primitive communalism system, the slave state, feudalism, capitalism, and were then, that time of Karl Marx, entering the system of socialism and communism. Although some greedy and narrow-minded groups in the world completely dismissed this analysis, and indeed the communists made their own philosophical and strategy mistakes, there is no doubt that the method of class analysis of society is correct, and so is the phenomenon of social transformation. If those who claim to study social sciences in Africa were serious, they would have noticed the societies in Europe by the time of the Renaissance, 1400 AD, were three classes in societies, comprised of the feudalists, the peasants, and the artisans. By the time of the French Revolution, 1789, the European society had evolved into a four-class society, being the feudalists, the aristocrats, the middle class, the bourgeoisie, as they were called, the proletariat, the working class, and the peasants. If you go to Europe today and you look for peasants and for feudalists, you will not get them. The society appears to have become a two-class society comprised of the middle class and the skilled working class. Each of these historical social classes has got different productive capacity, high or low. What was the productive capacity of the primitive communalist societies? What was the productive capacity of the serfs, who are called abasenze in our language here, abebanja, on the land of the feudal landlords, abamairo, before 1928? What is the productive capacity of the bourgeoisie that are conscious of the difference between the input cost and the final price of a product that we call profit? What is the productive capacity of the proletariat, e.g. the industrial working class, that is skilled and working for wages? On account of some of the reasons that we do not have time to go into here, this social evolution, this social metamorphosis was faster in Europe than in Africa, Asia, or in the Americas. It is this lagging behind in social evolution that caused so much damage and problems to Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Indeed, by 1862, when Huntington Speke came to Uganda, our societies were three classes societies, comprised of the feudalists, abalangira, princes, and warlords as class number one. Number two, peasants, abakopi, or commoners. And three, the artisans. By 1962, when Uganda got independence, the feudal class were not there any longer, or were much weakened by the colonial system, and the artisan class had either been eliminated or was to call a special meeting of the NRM caucus, and we really discussed this, because I don't want to continue talking as if I'm begging people to come and cultivate my garden when I am telling Ugandan leaders to see how to rescue their people from poverty. it's not correct that we should go on like this, as if I am begging people to do something for me, when we need to do this for our people. I call this the success in the cultural corridor partial, because elements in the society still have irrational practices carried on from tradition that negate progress, what we call reactionary, reacting negatively vis-à-vis positive progress. These are the practices of fragmenting land on inheritance and depending on only nature to provide the pasture, yet it is more reliable if we grow the pasture. Once I had that partial success, by 1995, I went to the whole country and gave all and sundry the message of transformation. However, like the Jews, many people are either not bothered or are waiting for another Messiah, even when the message is clear and verifiable. Verifiable how? Visit the cattle corridor that used to be wilderness, Engando, country like Akesi, Hohai, which is now an area of some modern farms producing millions of liters of milk per day for the local markets and for export. The exports have hit US dollars 106 million per year. Algeria is now going to also buy our powdered milk worth US dollars 150 million. If this area could transform, so could the others. In the manifesto of 1996, we put forward the 4 acres model of coffee, fruits, pasture for zero grazing dairy, food crop production, and pig and poultry in the backyard, and fish farming near the wetlands. This was the medicine for the smallholders. Those with bigger pieces of land were more flexible and could help the country grow and participate in producing products that needed large-scale production to make economic sense that the country needed, such as cotton, maize, sugarcane, ranching for beef, etc., etc. In terms of funding, the latter group would be supported by Uganda Development Bank. It is the 4 acres model group that I decided needed grants or soft loans direct from government. We started with the Ntandikwa, PMA, Plan for Modernization of Agriculture. These were all money put aside for this purpose. NADS, Operation Wealth Creation, and now PDM. These efforts were for agriculture. With the non-agricultural or broad spectrum activities, we have put in place the following: the Women Fund, the Youth Fund, microfinance, and now recently, Emyoga. With all the pre-PDM funds, the modes were that government officials were the ones selecting the beneficiaries. Especially with operational wealth creation, it initially worked well. Indeed, the households in the non-money sector declined from 68% to 39%. This was most commendable. However, I started picking up complaints from the public of Begabera Boka, they only give to themselves. Balete Fu, they supply us bad quality materials. Baleta Biabusere, they bring overpriced items. That is when I decided that the UPDF must get out of this effort, because the image of the wider force was going to be ruined by the mistakes of these fellows who were in Operation Wealth Creation, who had lost their straightforwardness. Moreover, it is the ultimate aim of the NRM that the stakeholders, the beneficiaries of these projects, must manage their affairs. That was the debate we had in the cabinet. When people are saying, no, we should continue with the army, I said, no. These people must learn how to manage their affairs. They are not children. We can help them to manage their affairs. Hence, the need for the stakeholders, farmers, artisans, to form the circles in the parish or at the constituency for the Myoga. This is the correct ultimate solution. I've started touring and inspecting the 18 zones of Uganda. The 18 zones of Uganda are Masaka, Mengo, what they used to call Mengo, the districts of Mukono, Ruero, and all that, Pigi, Muvende, Ankole, Kigezi, Toro, Bunyoro, Usoga, Bukedi, Teso, Sebei, Karamoja, Lango, Acholi, West Nile, and Madi. I started with Acholi between the 23rd and the 24th of February 2023. Straight away, the Wananchi told me of the parasites that were like flies swarming around the PDM and the Myogamani. I will decisively follow up the attempted stealing of the PDM and the Myogamani in Acholi, and if they tampered with the money, they will pay for that treachery. There will be an example to the rest of the potential flies. It is simply to state that the PDM will deal with commercial agriculture by producing raw materials. It is not to forget raw materials from minerals, from forest products, from fisheries. By adding value to these raw materials, the value of the product goes up by a factor of more than 10 or more. Take coffee, for instance. The Coffee Consortium of Uganda has again reaffirmed what we knew in the bush. A kilogram of bean coffee gives us US dollars 2.5. A kilogram of roasted and ground coffee gives us $50. To get a kilogram of roasted and ground coffee, you need 2.5 kilograms of bean coffee. So imagine, here we are getting $2 per kilo for coffee, but when they grind, a kilo of ground coffee is $50. And to get a kilo of roasted coffee and ground, you need 2.5 of the other one. So you can say that for what we get 2.5, somebody gets something like $20. I will come back, we shall meet in the caucus of the NRM and discuss this slavery. What is true of coffee is true of all the other raw materials in varying degrees, whether they are agricultural, minerals, forests, or freshwater resources. You now see how the present economy of $49 billion can jump by a factor of 10, $500 billion in a very few years. Therefore, today, I didn't want to touch many things. I simply wanted to reaffirm our stand on the PDM and on the Myoga. Don't worry. Anybody who messes up, we shall mess him up also. And we shall educate our people until they understand. And politically, even those who are looking for politics, this is very good, because now